It is Thursday, May 22nd, and President Trump achieving victory, getting his signature piece of legislation passed through the House. The big, beautiful bill passing through the House, moving to the Senate now. No tax on tips, no more tax on overtime, a huge tax deduction for seniors to replace the no tax on Social Security. There's a reason why no tax on Social Security isn't included in this. We're going to explain. Also, fiscal conservatives getting a lot of what they wanted. Illegal aliens no longer getting Medicare. Done. They are off. And Dems, the media, furious about it. You can't make it up. We're going to show you just how mad they are. And more shocking details coming out about Biden's Autopen scandal. The story getting just worse and worse. Apparently, Trump's DOJ actively investigating this now, targeting 3 top Biden officials who they're calling the gatekeepers, who may have been selling access to it, using Autopen for personal gain. If true, one of the biggest scandals in American history, and more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates.
We're looking right now at the House floor. I have sat through many of these votes as you guys have, watching those numbers tick along. We see one present, which I think we're going to learn who that was. But in the end, Democrats more or less held together. Nobody broke. We're going to take a listen.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
President Trump accomplishing victory, a major victory for the president, for Republicans, for all Americans, really. The big, beautiful bill passing the House, Republicans coming together to pass Trump's multi-trillion-dollar tax and spending package, which will have a sweeping impact on middle-class, working-class finances. Now, normally, we don't like these giant bills, but there's a lot of good stuff in this. I haven't seen anything negative that was snuck in yet. We'll let you know if we see something. The bill passing on a party line vote, 215 yes votes to 214 nay votes, every Democrat voting no. Speaker Mike Johnson keeping his promise to the president in getting this done before the Memorial Day recess. This bill making permanent Trump's 2017 tax cuts, but also doing so much more, delivering on many of his campaign promises. For example, no more tax on tips, folks. No more tax on overtime. It doesn't include no tax on Social Security payments. A lot of people were worried about that Social Security was going to be left behind. Technically, it was. Apparently, what happened, Social Security programs can't legally be changed through the budget reconciliation process, which is how they're pushing this bill through Congress. Trump finding out about this, not too happy, going down to the Hill on Tuesday, meeting with the Republican caucus, telling them, you got to do something about this. What they did was they added a special tax deduction for seniors, a $4,000 senior tax deduction to offset the no Social Security tax. And they added it. It got passed. It's now in the bill. Trump taking a victory lap, posting this morning on Truth Social, the one big, beautiful bill has passed the House of Representatives. This is arguably the most significant piece of legislation that will ever be signed in the history of our country. The bill includes massive tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax deductions when you purchase an American-made vehicle, along with strong border security measures, pay raises for our ICE and Border Patrol agents, funding for the Golden Dome, Trump's savings accounts for newborn babies, and much, much more. The Democrats have lost control of themselves and are aimlessly wandering around, showing no confidence, no grit, or determination. They have forgotten their landslide loss in the presidential election and are warped in the past, hoping someday to revive open borders for the world's criminals to be able to pour into our country, men to be able to play in women's sports. They don't realize that these things and so many more like them will never happen again. Democrats losing their minds over this for some odd reason, claiming this bill benefits the rich, which is not true. Trying their hardest to shape that as the prevailing narrative around this, which is a lie, a big, fat, giant lie. Watch.
What do you think folks are going to be pointing to, talking about?
Medicaid, for sure. We've already seen op-eds that have been written by Republican Senate leaders in their local newspapers, as well as in the New York
Senate
Times.
leaders.
Yes,
Okay.
because they recognize that this is going to shut down rural health care. It is going to eradicate the already fragile health care system in many of their districts, particularly because there is a larger percentage of Medicaid recipients who reside in red districts than any place else. So I think that for them, they're paying attention because they know that this is going to have an effect on midterms. But moreover, their states cannot afford to lose that level of coverage.
Those are approved Dem talking points. See how they say it removes health care for millions of low-income earners? What they don't say is it removes it for low-income American earners. They don't say that. They just say low-income earners because this bill doesn't cut benefits from any American. It does cut Medicare for all illegal aliens, though, and all undocumented immigrants. This is just so hard for Dems to fight back against because when they're pressed about it, they can't explain why they oppose it. Watch.
All the time. In 2017, when we passed the tax cuts, they totally missed the growth targets. They totally missed what was going to happen to federal revenue. They're not oracles. They can't foretell the future down to the exact science. Our Republican view is if we lower taxes, we'll have economic growth and it helps everybody.
This isn't rocket science because the poor people are losing benefits, Medicaid, and SNAP. Excuse me?
You said the poor people. What do you mean?
People in the bottom,
illegal immigrants, the people who won't get up off the couch and go to work. Which people?
This bill helping middle-income and working-class Americans, not the rich. And I'll prove it. In this bill, it raises the child tax credit to $2,000 from $1,000, making that permanent. Something Dems claim they support. Dems run on raising the child tax credit. They run on it every single election. This is something Biden could have done, something Dems could have done while they were in power. Why is Trump doing it? Why are Republicans the ones doing it then? Also, this bill raises the SALT cap from $10,000 to $40,000 only if you earn less than $500,000 a year. It also eliminates tax on tips, eliminates tax on overtime, gives seniors on Social Security a new $4,000 tax deduction. I don't know any billionaires working overtime or earning tips, do you? Promises made, promises kept. In another story, Trump's DOJ investigating the gatekeepers behind the Biden Autopen scandal. Who was controlling the Autopen and were they gaining personally from its use? That's the allegation. And the evidence now piling up. Really, this scandal just keeps getting crazier. President Trump saying yesterday Joe Biden was not for open borders. He never talked about open borders where criminals of all kinds, shapes, and sizes flowed into our country at will. It wasn't his idea, the open border, and almost destroyed our country and cost us hundreds of billions of dollars to get these criminals out and go through the process we're now having to go through. It was the people that knew he was cognitively impaired and that took over the Autopen. They stole the presidency of the United States and put us in great danger. This is treason at the highest level. They did it to destroy our country. The Joe Biden that everybody knew would never allow drug dealers, gang members, and the mentally insane to come into our country totally unchecked and unvetted. All anyone has to do is look up his record. Something very severe should happen to these treasonous thugs that wanted to destroy our country but couldn't because I came along. Make America great again. Deputy AG Ed Martin saying the DOJ is actively investigating this, saying it appears the Autopen was used by Ron Klein, Anita Dunn, and Bob Bauer, and I have a high-ranking whistleblower, high-ranking Biden official blowing the whistle on what they were using Autopen for. Realize how serious this is. Having the power of the president, being able to use it for whatever you want. Think of it like power of attorney. You can sign on someone's behalf. That's what this is. Only having it for the president of the United States, being able to sign directives and executive orders that affect the entire country, sometimes the whole world, without him knowing, and maybe doing so for personal gain, selling access to the Autopen. Watch what he said.
Hey, the president, if you were with us on the morning meeting, you saw talked at length, 2 stops before he went into the meeting with the House conference, talked to the media, and he talked a lot about this issue of the Autopen. All presidents use Autopen, but there seems to be a sense in the Trump administration that Joe Biden, and this is something Ed I think is working on, that Joe Biden used the or people used the Autopen to sign things on Joe Biden's behalf, including pardons that may be not legally, constitutionally permissible if it wasn't actually the president and it was some robot or whatever you call the Autopen. So here's number 3. This is a Truth Social post from the president about this topic. And again, he talked about it at length this morning. Joe Biden was not for open borders. He never talked about open borders where criminals of all kinds, all right, blah, 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 go through the process. It was the people that knew he was cognitively impaired and took that, and that took over the Autopen. They stole the presidency of the United States and put us in great danger. This is treason at the highest level. So, Ed, where did this start, this notion that the Autopen was improperly used, and what evidence have you seen for the president's accusation?
Well, I'll make a little news for you, Mark, here. I was in the office as U.S. Attorney for about 5 days when I wrote to a number of senior Biden officials in the White House saying, what did you know about Joe Biden's competence and the pardons? And I got some responses. And so I've been looking at this for a while. Again, I think that the question is more about competence. If you have someone who's not competent, they can't enter into a contract, right? And if you do enter into a contract, you've committed fraud. The question is whether you use a tool to trick people into entering into a fraud. So the Biden pardons are unprecedented. The ones right before Christmas that he did, people forget this. I think it's a couple thousand pardons that were done. Did he know about that? Did he really understand? Look, the pardon power is plenary, but the guy has to be competent to do it. Now you come forward to this question broadly of the Autopen. Autopen's completely obviously legal if you're competent, and there must be a trail that shows who was in charge of the Autopen. I know this exists. Like, I worked for a governor. We had a system for an Autopen to be able to use it. And so right now we have unprecedented conduct, the pardons, unprecedented admissions, the books, as well as the staffers. I had a whistleblower in my office 10 days ago, senior Democrat, saying, look, it was these 3 people that controlled access and they were making money off of it. I don't know if I believe it yet, but the point is, I think we have to get to the bottom of it for the American people and to protect the process. And that's what we're doing. And by the way, make it all the way to the bottom. It may not be criminal, but it certainly should be a scandal of the first order, maybe in human history, or maybe American history. I sound like the president there, but in American history, to have this kind of conduct.
Ed, I'm from Maryland, not North Carolina, so I'm not that bright. Did I miss what the news was? You said you'd make news. What was the news you made?
The news was that nobody knows until that I was writing to these folks at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and including the Biden family. I don't think anybody has seen that. So my point is, I'm bragging about being there early. Everybody got to this 120 days later.
Did they reply, or you just sent them letters?
No, they did.
What'd they say?
Well, a couple of them lawyered up, and one of them wrote directly. I won't talk about what they said.
And can you and you probably won't tell us, but can you characterize who the whistleblower was? It someone who worked in the Biden White House?
Biden campaign, 2020 campaign at the highest levels.
2020, and who are the 3 people they said were doing it for money?
This is the one who's let me say it carefully. Yeah. The gatekeepers. Different characterization of who was using the access, but the gatekeepers were Klain and Anita Dunn and Bob Bauer, and those 3 were really dominant characters in the White House. Ricchetti a little bit, and obviously Jill, but I think that was the 3. I was with this person, and I said, "What about Susan Rice? What about some of these others?" And they said, "No, these were the ones."
Okay, I will politely and gently tell you his name is pronounced Ricchetti.
Oh, okay.
Soft, just so you know.
Just so I know. Okay, I'll make sure if I meet him, I'll get it right.
President Trump saying this was treason at the highest levels, which, look, if these 3 Biden officials were using it for personal gain, selling access to it, I'd agree. It seems awfully freaking serious. In another story, the media still trying to cover up the killing of white farmers in South Africa. At this morning's press conference, a White House press reporter trying to rewrite history, claiming the video Trump played in the Oval Office yesterday was debunked, claiming the white crosses he showed were in a cemetery, that it was all debunked. Carolyn Levitt, though, not taking this, setting the record straight, tearing this fake news reporter down. Watch what she said.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that?
What's not true, Yamiche?
It's not true. The video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that that video showed the crosses that represent
what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
That the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
It did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
The videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders?
Yamiche, what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated. And that's a ridiculous line of questioning.
I still think yesterday's Oval Office meeting with South Africa's president will go down as one of Trump's most top awkward meetings, way worse than the Zelensky meeting. South Africa's president was stunned into disbelief yesterday when he pulled out that TV. But that's why Trump is who he is, why he gets results. He's not afraid to make things awkward. 100% what we need in this country. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.